I would think that the student really has sufficient advantage as compared to students who don't even receive tuition. Like, there's a very, very big gap.
Hi everyone, my name is Ren Jie and I've been a full-time tutor for about a year now since graduation. So I teach math as well as English, mostly at the primary and secondary school level.
Hi, I'm Nicole. So I've been a tuition teacher for the past 5 to 6 years. So I mostly teach math and science.
Hey guys, I'm Ting Rong. I taught tuition for a very brief period of time, and personally I've never received tuition ever before.
Hi, my name is Glen and I've been teaching tuition for about 5 years, part-time. And throughout my life, I've been always forced by my parents to have tuition.
Hi, I'm Jun Hao and I've been teaching tuition for about 3 years now. And I've been receiving good tuition since young because my parents forced me to go for tuition.
The benefits of tuition are overrated.
You know, when we say the word tuition, right? I feel like in Singapore, there's generally 2 types of tuition. So one will be tuition for people who already understand whatever that's going on in class now. And another one is for people who are struggling behind. And the only way for them to understand is actually coming to tuition and me slowly going over the same chapter that their teachers are teaching, have taught them in school.
School has a very standard learning pace where they go through one topic in 1 week, for example. But I feel tuition is more catered to each individual student's learning pace.
I think that inherently there are some students who actually fall through the cracks. So the boy I'm actually tutoring right now is actually P5 and he has dyslexia. So on a normal basis, it's very hard for him to cope in school itself. So I have to reinforce the things based on his learning aptitude, which is a bit different from other students. So I believe tuition inherently still has its benefits, right? Because some students, right, they really need that kind of individual attention that they cannot give in a mainstream classroom.
I feel in Singapore government schools, right, a lot of students, they are afraid to ask questions. So they are very shy individuals who really, they feel embarrassed to ask questions in a group setting because maybe perhaps they are scared that they will be ridiculed, or they feel that people, why you ask such a stupid question? But when you're in a one-to-one tuition with a tutor, you're able to express yourself better. And I feel that it's that opportunity that tuition provides which really helps a lot of students to improve.
The accessibility of tuition undermines meritocracy.
I think even from tuition-wise, there's a spectrum. There's the group tuition at one end, and then the other end is the $100 per hour kind of tuition, whereby I don't know what students are learning, but apparently they're learning a lot. So when you look at that end of the spectrum, right, even those students who receive that kind of tuition, I would believe have a significant advantage as compared to others.
I feel that a lot of people, like the more well-to-do families, they're able to afford tuition. So there's actually a sort of a divide between not as well-to-do families in terms of the opportunities that they are open to.
Although the tuition centers are prevalent and it's very accessible, education is still very much a leveler. If they know how to ask teachers very specific questions, they are willing to voice out during classes, they know how to ask their friends for help. So in that way, even without tuition, meritocracy still very much works in that sense that if you know how to study, you know where to seek out resources, you can still do well.
Personally, I know someone who's actually giving tuition for $70 per hour, and some IB specialists. Yeah, the accolades are really there, and I would think that the student really has sufficient advantage as compared to students who don't even receive tuition. There's a very, very big gap.
Since you're talking about meritocracy, it's about working hard and getting rewarded. And I feel that with a lot of tuition centers, a lot of them are getting a lot of free resources, such as cheat sheets, mind maps, all that kind of stuff. And it sort of makes students lazier. I'm not saying all students are lazy, but there are definitely those that just use all these kind of resources and get to do well. Whereas compared to students that don't have the resources and trying so hard, end up they couldn't even do well.
Teaching tuition is easy money.
Okay, I teach tuition on Sundays from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So I have 3 lessons continuously 7 kids, right? And then I don't take any lunch, I don't take any breaks in between. And I teach because I like it. I teach because, right, the satisfaction that I get whenever they get back their exam papers and they're like, oh, teacher, I went from a C to a B for my exam, right? Then I'm like, oh, I'm very happy also. But then, it's like behind the scenes, right? It's not just the lesson that you have to take note of. I have to plan what I want to teach them individually for each of the students based on what they know, based on what they don't know, and then give them more worksheets based on what they are lacking in.
I had this kid that PSLE kid, and I told him last minute, and he basically doesn't know the entire math syllabus, and it was quite bad. So I couldn't really finish teaching him everything. I just like teach him a bit of stuff to at least I know this topic will come out, and then I just okay, try to at least let him score on this part, and then hopefully he gets through it. And after that, after the whole experience, the mom was very happy that he actually made it to secondary school, normal acad, and which was really heartwarming to see at least I managed to somehow help the kid in that way.
Although it's a really very tiring job, but I think that at the end of the day, it boils down to 2 words that it's worth it.
MOE teachers should be bound by non-compete clauses. Over the past few years, there have been ex-MOE teachers who have started their own tuition agencies while leveraging on their MOE experience for credibility. Is this fair?
There's definitely that conflict there of teachers using their reputation as a good MOE teacher and using that to their advantage in catapulting their private education business.
I think at the end of the day, it's a life choice, whether or not you choose to leave the ministry to do something or you want to continue. I think that such a clause would really affect your planning.
On that note, I think MOE needs to work on putting more resources into lifting the administrative burden on teachers, because even when I was in school, I also noticed that teachers don't just teach, they have to spend so long hours taking care of the CCAs and doing admin work, and they're just flooded all the time.
So basically I had a short-term internship at Pathlight School. So that was actually a autism-focused school in Singapore. So the curriculum they follow is actually with the mainstream syllabus. And to be honest, I can empathize why a teacher would want to leave because of workload. Because honestly, it can be very draining on a teacher, and the lifestyle isn't the best. Work-life balance is really compromised there.
I think to add on to Glen's point, I would agree, because I don't think that it's fair, because I don't feel that the ministry patented their passion for teaching, because passion for teaching comes from within. It's you. It doesn't belong to the ministry. Yeah. So whatever you want to do with it, it's totally up to you. So it's really, really unfair if you would to, put that thing there to restrict you to do whatever you want with it, because it just doesn't make sense, to me, I feel.
I think it's very true that we shouldn't put the clause to penalize the teachers to not let them jump to private tuition, when most of the reason why they want to jump in the first place lies is the system's fault.
Thank you for watching this episode. What do you think about this issue? Is it necessary for children to have tuition to succeed in Singapore?
If you have any suggestions or you would like to join our episode, fill up the form below. Be sure to subscribe to SG Layers, like this video, and we'll see you next Monday.